Picture this: a male African lion, 250 kilograms of muscle, bone, and absolute confidence, is walking across an open savanna. He is, by every metric the modern natural world has available, the definitive large predator of his ecosystem. Other animals move when he moves. Prey species track his location the way a person tracks a suspicious smell in a room they just walked into. He has no natural predators. Nothing in his current world looks at him and thinks, "I could take that." Now rewind the clock, not to last year, not to a century ago, not even to 1,000 years ago. Go back further, 50,000 years, 100,000. Further still, into the deep ancient past, when the Earth's megafauna roster looked nothing like the one we have today, when the continents were populated by animals so large and so formidable that the modern lion, impressive as he is, would have been a middle-tier competitor at best in several of the ecosystems he would have encountered. Put that same lion in a forest in ancient Europe, and he crosses paths with a cave lion. Put him on the ancient American plains, and he meets the American lion. Walk him into the scrub of ancient South America, and he encounters something with canine teeth the length of a human hand and the build of a compact truck. None of these animals exist anymore. All of them, by every reasonable reconstruction of their biology, were capable of killing a modern lion. Some of them could do it without breaking into anything resembling their full effort. This is the world that ancient humans actually lived in, not the defanged, declawed, significantly downgraded megafauna world we inhabit today, but a planet populated by predators so extraordinary that understanding them changes how you think about what it meant to be a small, soft, relatively slow ancient human trying to survive in landscapes where the apex predators made a modern lion look approachable. So today the question on the table is this: what extinct big cats could kill a lion? And the answer involves paleontology, biomechanics, fossil evidence, size comparisons that should make your eyes widen, and the quietly terrifying reality that ancient humans shared territory with multiple animals on this list simultaneously. Stick with this one, because by the end you are going to have a profoundly different appreciation for what ancient human survival actually meant. Start with the one that most people have heard of but significantly underestimate: Smilodon. Specifically, Smilodon populator, the largest of the 3 recognized Smilodon species, which lived across South America until approximately 10,000 years ago. Smilodon is almost universally depicted in popular media as a large, impressive cat with big teeth. That description is accurate the way saying a freight train is a large, impressive vehicle that moves fast. Technically correct, wildly inadequate. Smilodon populator was not a large cat with impressive canines. It was a physical phenomenon. Estimated body mass in large individuals reaches 400 kilograms or more in some reconstructions, nearly double the mass of a large male African lion. The build was not the lean, long-legged athletic build of modern big cats adapted for pursuit. Smilodon was massively muscled through the shoulders, neck, and forelimbs in a way that suggests a predatory strategy built around overpowering rather than outrunning prey. The forelimbs were thick and powerful, the musculature of the chest and shoulders extraordinary by any comparative measure. This was an animal built for seizing and controlling prey of enormous size and power. The giant ground sloths, ancient horses, and large camelids of the South American Pleistocene, animals that were themselves far larger than anything a modern lion typically encounters. The canine teeth, the feature everyone fixates on, were not the primary weapon in the intuitive sense. Smilodon's upper canines reached lengths of approximately 28 centimeters in large individuals. These were not teeth designed for the crushing bite that modern big cats use to suffocate prey through throat holds. The skull and jaw musculature of Smilodon indicate a bite force that was, by modern felid standards, relatively modest. The jaw was optimized for a wide gape rather than maximum closing power. The canines were precision instruments designed to be driven into soft tissue. The throat, or the sarw, underside of the neck, the abdominal region. With the enormous force of the animal's neck and forelimb musculature doing the work of penetration rather than jaw closure alone. The killing mechanism was closer to a stabbing action than the sustained, suffocating bite of a modern lion. Once those canines were driven home, the damage they caused to major blood vessels and soft tissue structures was catastrophic and immediate. This was not a predator that one fights through attrition. It was a predator that ended encounters with single, devastating precision strikes. Put a modern lion against Smilodon populator, and the outcome is not a contest that requires careful analysis. The size differential alone is significant. The weaponry differential compounds it. The prey that Smilodon was built to kill was categorically larger and more dangerous than what a modern lion typically targets. A lion is an extraordinary predator. Smilodon populator was operating at a different scale entirely, in terms of both physical capability and the prey base it was adapted to handle. Now move to an animal that is both less famous than Smilodon and arguably more directly relevant to the question of what could kill a modern lion: the cave lion, Panthera spelaea. Unlike Smilodon, the cave lion was not a saber-toothed cat. It was a true pantherine feliid, a member of the same genus as modern lions, leopards, tigers, and jaguars. It was, in the most direct biological sense, a lion. An ancient lion, significantly larger than its modern descendants, that lived across Eurasia and into Alaska and northwestern North America until approximately 13,000 years ago. Size estimates for cave lions based on fossil skeletal material suggest they were somewhere between 10 and 30% larger than modern African lions, putting large males potentially in the range of 300 kilograms or more. This is not a marginal size difference. In a confrontation between animals of similar build and similar weaponry, as would be the case between a cave lion and a modern lion since they were essentially variants of the same basic design, a 30% mass advantage is decisive. The larger animal hits harder, absorbs more damage before being incapacitated, and can apply greater force in grappling exchanges. Size is not the only variable that determines fight outcomes, but at similar levels of capability and similar body plans, it is the most reliable predictor. Beyond raw size, cave lion paleobiology indicates a predator operating at the top of one of the most demanding large predator communities that has ever existed. The Eurasian Pleistocene megafauna included cave bears, cave hyenas, and, in some periods and regions, competing predators of extraordinary capability. Surviving and thriving as the apex felid in that environment required capabilities that the relatively simplified modern African savanna ecosystem does not demand of lions today. Cave lions were hunting woolly rhinoceroses, young mammoths, giant deer with antler spans exceeding 3 meters, and the full range of Pleistocene megaherbivores. Their prey base was categorically more dangerous than what modern lions encounter, and their physical development reflected that demand. Ancient cave paintings and engravings, some of the most detailed paleontological evidence available for cave lion appearance and behavior, depict animals with the lean, powerful build and the alert, predatory presence of animals at the very top of their ecosystem. No mane in the male, apparently, based on depictions, or a very reduced one, suggesting different visual signaling strategies than modern lions, possibly because the cave lion's environment and social structure demanded different adaptations. But the body, the size, the fundamental predatory architecture, all of it indicates an animal that would regard a modern lion as a same category competitor rather than a superior, and that the evidence suggests would hold physical advantages in most direct encounters. For ancient humans in Europe, Central Asia, and the Americas, the cave lion was not a distant theoretical threat. It was a real, present, enormously capable competitor for territory, shelter, and prey. Cave sites that ancient humans used for occupation show evidence of cave lions using the same sites. Sometimes the bones of both species are found in the same deposits, the history of who occupied the cave when written in layered sediment. Ancient humans and cave lions were neighbors in the most uncomfortably direct sense, sharing landscape, competing for caves, occasionally competing for the same prey carcasses, and almost certainly encountering each other with enough regularity that the encounter was not a rare event but a recurring feature of ancient life. Move next to an animal that operated in ancient North America, and that represents a fascinating parallel evolution story. the American lion, Panthera atrox. Despite the name, the American lion's exact taxonomic relationship to modern lions is still debated. Some researchers classify it as a subspecies of the cave lion, others treat it as a distinct species. What is not debated is its size. The American lion was enormous. Skeletal reconstructions place large individuals potentially in excess of 350 kilograms, making it one of the largest felids for which we have reliable fossil evidence. It ranged across North and Central America from Alaska to Peru, and the diversity of its geographic range suggests a highly adaptable predator capable of operating across different ecosystems and prey bases. By the way, if you want to go even deeper into the secret lives of ancient humans, I just launched a full course called The Secret Lives of Ancient Humans. 10 modules, 3+ hours of content covering everything we never talk about on YouTube. What they feared, how they communicated, what hunted them, and much more. Plus an exclusive PDF guide included. Link in the description. See you inside. The American lion shared its range with an extraordinary assemblage of Pleistocene megafauna. Mammoths, mastodons, giant ground sloths, ancient horses, camels, giant bison with horn spans exceeding 2 meters. It also shared its range with ancient humans, who arrived in the Americas during the period when the American lion was still very much present and active. The first ancient humans to cross into North America from Beringia did not enter an empty paradise. They entered a landscape populated by the largest and most dangerous megafauna the Americas had ever hosted, with the American lion among the most formidable residents. A modern African lion placed in the range of the American lion during the Pleistocene would have encountered not just a larger version of itself, but a predator adapted to prey that modern lions never encounter. Prey whose size and defensive capability would have demanded physical attributes beyond what modern lions possess. Whether the American lion and a modern lion would meet in direct confrontation is a hypothetical, but the size data alone supports the conclusion that the American lion would hold significant physical advantages in any such encounter. Now introduce an animal that most people have never heard of, and that deserves considerably more attention than it receives. Machairodus giganteus, or, if you prefer your ancient predators to have names that match their scale, simply the giant saber-toothed cat. Machairodus was not a close relative of Smilodon. It belonged to a separate lineage of machaerodont cats that predated Smilodon by millions of years, living across Eurasia and Africa during the Miocene and Pliocene epochs. The largest species within the genus reached estimated body masses that rival or exceed the largest Smilodon populator estimates, placing them potentially at the 400 kilogram range or beyond. What makes Machairodus particularly interesting in the context of this discussion is that it represents a separate evolutionary solution to the problem of taking down very large prey, arising independently from Smilodon but converging on similar physical strategies. Massive forelimb and shoulder musculature, elongated upper canines, a body plan optimized for power and prey control rather than sustained pursuit. Two separate lineages of cats, separated by time and geography, independently evolved toward the same basic design because that design worked for the ecological niche they were filling. Evolution arriving at the same answer twice is usually a strong indication that the answer is correct. The temporal range of Machairodus places it outside the period of modern human existence. This was not an animal ancient Homo sapiens encountered, but it was an animal that earlier members of the human lineage shared territory with. And its existence in the fossil record is a useful reminder that the saber-toothed body plan was not a single evolutionary experiment, but a repeatedly successful solution to the challenge of predating very large, very dangerous megaherbivores. Bring the discussion back to an animal that ancient humans absolutely encountered across multiple continents, across tens of thousands of years of shared territory. Homotherium, sometimes called the scimitar-toothed cat. Homotherium is less famous than Smilodon, but in some respects more interesting, because its biology appears to have been more flexible and its ecological range more extensive. It survived until relatively recently, possibly as late as 10,000 years ago in some regions, and fossil evidence suggests it was active across Africa, Eurasia, and North America simultaneously, making it one of the most geographically widespread large felids in the paleontological record. The body plan of Homotherium was notably different from Smilodon's. Where Smilodon was massively built and apparently adapted for ambush predation of large prey at close range, Homotherium had longer legs, a more elevated front end relative to the rear, giving it a somewhat hyena-like profile, and brain endocast studies suggesting relatively large visual cortex regions indicating highly developed visual processing. This has led some researchers to propose that Homotherium may have been a more cursorial predator than Smilodon, capable of sustained pursuit over longer distances and possibly a more socially organized hunter operating in coordinated groups rather than as a solitary ambush predator. If Homotherium was indeed a social hunter, and the fossil evidence, while not conclusive, is suggestive, then its threat profile to a modern lion becomes considerably more complex than simple size comparison. A single Homotherium individual was a large, capable predator, estimated at 150 to 200 kilograms, overlapping with large modern lions in mass. A group of Homotherium operating with coordinated hunting behavior would have represented a collective predatory capability that individual size comparisons do not capture. Modern lions in groups regularly dominate larger predators and drive them from kills through coordinated social pressure. An ancient felid with similar or greater social coordination and individual physical capability comparable to modern lions would have been a formidable competitor by any measure. Ancient humans in Europe encountered Homotherium during significant overlapping periods. The implications for ancient human survival are not abstract. A socially organized large felid capable of persistence hunting, sharing territory with ancient human groups that were themselves operating in small bands across open landscapes, represents exactly the kind of predator threat that would have shaped ancient human behavioral strategies in fundamental ways. The pressure to maintain group cohesion, to use fire as a perimeter defense, to select shelter locations with defensible access, all of these ancient survival behaviors make more sense when the predator landscape includes animals like Homotherium. There is one more candidate that deserves placement in this discussion, and it is one that challenges the framing of the question slightly because it was not technically a cat in the strict felid sense, but occupied a cat-like ecological niche and possessed physical capabilities that place it firmly in this conversation. Thylacosmolus atrox, the marsupial saber-tooth of South America. Thylacosmolus was a sparacidont, a member of a now extinct group of South American metatherian mammals that evolved independently from placental carnivores, and that, in the case of Thylacosmilus, converged on the saber-toothed predatory form with extraordinary completeness. The canine teeth of Thylacosmilus were, proportionally, among the most extreme of any saber-toothed predator known from the fossil record. Unlike the canines of Smilodon, which were rooted in the upper jaw and had a defined maximum length, the canines of Thylacosmilus continued growing throughout the animal's life, analogous to the continuously growing incisors of rodents, and were protected by distinctive flanges on the lower jaw when the mouth was closed. The skull and neck musculature were adapted for the same stabbing, driving action as Smilodon, though the jaw mechanics differed in details that are still being analyzed. Thylacosmilus went extinct before the arrival of placental predators from North America, before the Great American Biotic Interchange brought felids and other northern predators south, so it never encountered a modern lion or any direct ancestor of one. But as a thought experiment in comparative predatory capability, it belongs in any serious discussion of what extinct predators could handle a modern lion, because the physical evidence of its weaponry and musculature describes an animal whose killing mechanism was both devastating and highly developed. Here is what ties all of this together, and what makes it directly relevant to understanding ancient human history rather than just being an entertaining exercise in paleontological comparison. Ancient humans were not living in a world where lions were the most dangerous thing on four legs. They were living in a world where multiple animals on this list were present, active, and competing for the same resources. including the same prey, the same shelter sites, and occasionally the same individual ancient humans who wandered into the wrong territory at the wrong time. The cave lion was present in Europe and Asia while ancient humans were developing the cultural and technological practices that define our species. Homo therium overlapped with ancient humans across multiple continents. Smilodon was hunting on the American plains when the first ancient humans arrived in the Americas. The predator landscape of the ancient world was not a slightly more dangerous version of the modern one. It was a categorically different environment, populated by apex predators whose physical capabilities exceeded anything currently alive, and ancient humans navigated that environment successfully. Not because they were physically superior to these animals, but because they were socially organized, technologically equipped, and behaviorally sophisticated in ways that compensated for their obvious physical limitations. The extinct big cats that could kill a modern lion are, in aggregate, a measure of what ancient humans were actually up against. Every fire that ancient people kept burning through the night, every shelter positioned with defensible access and clear sight lines, every cooperative hunting and defensive strategy that required multiple people working in coordination. All of it was developed and refined in a world where the animals on this list were not museum exhibits, but real, present, active competitors for survival. The modern lion is extraordinary. In the context of the living world, it is unmatched. In the context of the ancient world that actually existed for most of human history, it would have been one impressive predator among several that were larger, or equally matched, or differently but equivalently dangerous. Ancient humans survived anyway, which, when you understand what they were surviving alongside, is either the most impressive thing our species has ever done or the most improbable. Possibly both.